We going to Mr. Matarese next?
We sure are.
This is troubling. We thought
Yes,
Brian Callen was troubling earlier. This is a man in dire straits. So, as you heard my exchange with Carl, Mike David from Red Bar introduced us all to Joe Matarese. Porcelain did a beautiful job of summarizing the life and career of a man.
Yep.
And I like to think that I kind of I lit a dead torch, you know?
Correct. Yep.
I saw a torch in the woods that had a little juice left in it.
Yeah.
And let me fire this thing up. And I'm glad to say Carl has picked up on that.
Mhm.
Because I think it's inspired Joe Matarese to be even more insane than he was before.
Now he's in his head.
Joe's losing his mind again. Why are you doing this, Joe? Stop it.
He was better off when he didn't think anyone was watching.
Yeah, so we talked about Mike Racine was a guest on his show.
Yep.
Now, do you remember me saying this, Craig? You don't remember anything I say, so probably not.
That's not true.
See if you can remember this one.
Mm-hmm.
I said, honestly, we're going to goof on this. But if Joe just has a comedian that's a good guest, like a Mike Racine or Jordan Jensen, whoever, that's the best format he's had so far. He should just stick with that.
Right.
Well, advice unheeded.
Sure.
Because he is yet again, it's crazy. You would think I'm just making it up how often this guy switches formats.
Yep.
But we have yet another new format for Uncle Joe.
No guests. How about you take some audience calls and we figure out what's going on with this crooked contract you signed for your agent?
Oh, is this the first clip?
What do you mean by?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it started here. This is a guy in the chat, by the way. Sorry, I didn't realize it started here, so I'll set it up a little better. But he's now doing, so he was invited on Kevin Brennan's show.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw, Kevin just reads Super Chats for his entire show. Just goes live and reads Super Chats.
Yep.
Now, we've been critical of how Kevin Brennan does his show here.
Yep.
But the one thing I will give him is Kevin Brennan gets easily enough Super Chats to just read those for an hour or however long he does.
This is probably a good time to mention that we aren't live right now.
Oh, yeah. Hey, guys, if you've been Super Chatting us, we appreciate it, but we're not live.
Yeah, I can't believe how many we got.
Yeah. Well, I hope a couple people are watching this premiere because Joe Matarese acknowledges at one point, this seems impossible, what I'm about to say. One person was watching live on YouTube.
That can't be right.
You know what? Maybe it's not. I might be thinking of Coach HP.
That could be more right.
Yeah. Coach HP. I did see Coach HP go, he goes, all right, we got one on YouTube. That's good. No, Matarese was probably more. I'm sorry. Matarese, when I checked last, was more like 10 or 11. I'm sorry.
Right.
That was crazy of me to say.
He sees Kevin Brennan go read Super Chat, so he just reads regular ones.
Well, that's the thing is he's relying. So now Joe is doing a show reliant on the chat and him riffing. If you remember the first episode back, he was like, guys, the last thing you're ever going to get on this podcast, last thing you're ever going to get is a lack of topics and any sort of guests. So he had guests on, and now he has no topics. So he's abandoned everything, the principles he once held so near and dear to his heart. All right, sorry, this is him interacting with the chat now.
Yes, how about you take some audience calls and we figure out what's going on with this crooked contract you signed for your agent? Now, what do you mean by that, Spooky?
I'll tell you what he means, Joe. Spooky.
Everyone knows exactly what he means.
I'll tell you what he means. This is where, Joe, you got to listen to us. You can't just listen to WATP. I know they're a bigger show than us, but you got to also listen to us because sometimes we give you a nugget once in a while. What this man is talking about is the $100,000 you allowed someone to spend on your behalf that you're going to have to pay when that special comes out.
Wasn't it more than that?
I think he said 100,000.
Oh, why'd I have 250 in my head?
Oh, because I'll tell you why. He said he won't accept $1 less than 250.
That's right. That's right. That's not up to him.
No, of course it's not.
DJ Electra even says, I even know what he means.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing about Joe's life. We all know what's going on, and he doesn't.
Right.
What I didn't even sign a contract with my agent. So
Why?
and
It's not the chatter got it wrong, and Joe's kind of playing dumb a little bit. It's not his agent. It's just some mystery benefactor.
Yes.
Yeah.
about a week ago, him and I are no longer working together. We split up admirably.
Amicably.
And here's to me being free.
My God, that's quite a way those two split up.
I admire that.
Oh, can I paint that breakup?
Can you guys stand still?
I'd like to frame that and hang it in my home so I can admire this breakup every day. We split up admirably.
On the episodes, we'll start with maybe different bourbons every week. You guys if you have
Joe.
some bourbon, go get some.
Joe. So Joe now thinks, hey, guys, new format. What if I just drink on the show?
You guys want to see me get bombed?
Guys, what if we took We Might Be Drunk, and you suck the talent, like Space Jam. You take the talent out of Sam Morril and Mark Normand,
Yeah.
and you get rid of the format they have. You don't go over bits or pet peeves or anything like that. It's just the drinking aspect. I'll watch any show where the guy has a drink in front of him. I don't care the content coming out of his mouth. What if I pour a guys? Hey guys, would you like me more if I was drinking bourbon? I know Joe drinking water did nothing for everyone. What if it was a brown liquor? What a horse's ass.
Next, we have him talking about his guest situation.
This is incredible, and I think this is what Carl was alluding to. It is the most disrespectful I've ever heard anyone. And can I say, Jordan Jensen and Mike Racine are at least two of the guests he was referring to. I don't know if he's talking about them specifically, but they were both on his show recently. Both more successful comedians than him at a much younger age and much funnier than him. Like, I think Jordan Jensen and Mike Racine are like two up-and-coming comedians, whereas Joe is at the end of a never-was career.
Right.
Listen to what he's about to say to these people that have donated their time to talk to this mook.
I do like the let me pour it on camera. I do like the no guests. As if you go look on YouTube, there's a lot of different guys out there that like are trolling my podcast.
Hey, that's us.
I
We
laugh.
made
Wow.
the cut. I think we're part of the guys.
We made it.
And it's like funny to me. And I forget which episode it was. It was 2 episodes ago. They posted and said,
Whoa. The memory cleared up awfully fast there, Joe.
He's not that big into the bourbon yet.
I forget which episode it was, but it was exactly this one. I can't, my memory's a little fuzzy. I can't seem to remember the episode, except I remember the exact number and when we recorded it and posted it.
I remember what I was wearing.
Yeah, my memory's a little fuzzy though. Also, I
already-
like that he's like, this is how Joe thinks entertainment works. He goes, "Let me pour the bourbon on camera,"
Yep.
as if we'd all be sitting at home going, "What? The drink's just in your glass? How'd it get in there, Joe?"
To be fair, we don't see how Carl's gets in there.
No, I suppose that's fair. We don't have that.
podcast interviewer of all time. And
Oh, go back. We got to hear him. He at least has some self-awareness. Kind of.
I forget which episode it was. It was 2 episodes ago. They posted and said, "I'm the worst podcast interviewer of all time." And I agree. And that's why I'm happy that I don't have a guest today, because I do suck.
Hey, hold on, Joe. Were
And
those guests booked at gunpoint? He's like, "Oh, sweet relief. I don't have a guest today." That would be if I did that. If I was like, boy, I really hate when Carl is on this show. Oh, hey, Carl. Yeah, no, we're talking about Fighter and the Kid, buddy. Welcome. You're booking the show, asshole. I'm really glad we don't have a guest today.
Interviewing. I used to be good at it. I don't know what happened. I took like 5 years off of interviewing people and I got terrible at it. I don't know.
As opposed to the glory days. I do remember like when I was a kid, the debates, like when someone disgraced themselves in public.
Yeah.
They would always be like, is this a Diane Sawyer, Mike Wallace, or Joe Matarese? Who's handling this one? I think I'm pretty sure that's where Bernie Madoff landed when he was trying to clear his name, was with Joe Matarese. Actually, Jerry Sandusky should have done an interview with Matarese. The only way he would have looked good.
Would have looked pretty good.
It's just like stand-up comedy. Like the audience knows when you're sick of a joke, and the audience also knows when you don't have curiosity about the guest. So if you're a person that doesn't have curiosity, don't have guests. Don't interview them unless it's going to be someone you are really curious about. And let's face it, you see how many people are watching me live right now. I don't have enough fans that I can get somebody that I would give a shit about them. So I get these comedians.
Look, what an asshole.
Following.
Do you believe he's talking about these people like this?
It's insane.
Like Jordan Jensen, which, by the way, do you know what he said to Jordan Jensen? Did you see that at all?
No.
So Jordan Jensen put out a special last summer. She was one of the Gas Digital half hours.
Yep.
And Joe goes on this like diatribe. He goes, I watched like 2 or 3 minutes of your half hour. I don't know. It wasn't really for me. I saw another clip of yours that was pretty funny, though.
Oh, this is the one when he opens it and he's like, oh, yeah, I've never met her. And she's like, no, we've met.
Yeah. And Jordan's like, but he goes on this like rant about her special. And Jordan's like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And yeah, so he's talking about these people that, again, donated their time for no reason to Joe Matarese.
That can pack a comedy club who nobody's ever heard of, and I haven't heard of. That's what was happening.
No, it's because you're out of touch.
So,
I've heard of them.
How have you
People that would watch your show have heard of them. It was actually hard for me to make fun of Joe's show for a couple weeks because he had comics I liked on.
Yeah.
You asshole. You're bringing, Joe, that's how you bring a new audience. Maybe you can relate to these people just by talking. If you were a real podcaster, which you're not, I don't know why you keep trying to be. Here's the weird thing about Joe, is he keeps saying, like, you know, I'm not very good at interviewing. I'm not very good at podcast. I understand. He thinks that's like growth. Like he's admitting, you know, he's pleading with us. Like, guys, I know I'm not a good podcaster. Here's the problem. You keep doing it. So we're going to keep making fun of it. If you were like, guys, hand up. I suck at podcasting, so I'm not going to do it anymore. We'd be like, oh, good for Joe. He's got self-awareness. You keep putting a product out that you're now saying is shitty.
For him, though, that could be growth.
I don't think it is. Well, let's keep going.
You know, it's nice having them on when you need a guest, but I think a nice balance, maybe a guest, then not a guest, or you know what I'm saying. But it's got to be somebody that you give a shit about, and hard for me to give a shit about somebody that I never met in my life. And if I Google them online, they're so new at stand-up. There's no content out there that blows me the fuck away. You know what I mean? That's what state we are at comedy right now. Talk shit about these comedians that are 10 years and under. They're selling out clubs because they got good TikToks. But if you watch them do stand-up...
Okay, hold on. Just so anyone's wondering if they missed the Matt Rife, Joe Matarese episode, you did not. He's had like working comics on.
Right.
Like Mike Racine's not TikTok famous.
He's just pissed that Mike Racine went on and doesn't know anything about him and dissected how much he hates the type of comic he is.
Yeah, this is all like salty because these guys are more successful than he was at their age. Like, it's sour grapes. It's kind of sad to watch. And this is where I've started to turn on Matarese, because I've always said about him that he's Stuttering John, he's Opie, he's all these people. He's got a lot of their qualities. But I
Mhm.
think he's a better person than them.
Yep.
That's what I've always maintained about Joe. And then when I heard this rant, I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Like,
Yeah, this
maybe
isn't
he's
great.
just an asshole.
This isn't great.
Yeah, the reason for a lot of these guys, their bitterness and everything, it eventually gets to them. And I think that's what you're seeing with Joe. And I assume working with Kevin is only going to worsen that. I guess he's doing Kevin's show once a week, he says.
Oh, that's not going to be good for him.
Oh, God. We're going to get an epic. There's going to be some great Joe Matarese episodes if he starts doing stuff with Kevin. It might
Yeah.
take a while, but eventually.
It's not Chris Rock. It's not Dave Chappelle. It's not. I mean, I can name a.
Hey,
Bill
asshole!
Burr.
That wasn't every guest on fucking Letterman.
No shit.
Like, Carson didn't exclusively ever. Carson made comedians. He made their careers. It was people you never heard of before. He called them over to the couch.
Joe
and interviewed them.
Matarese.
Look at what fucking Kill Tony does. Tony has legitimate psychopaths on, lets them do a minute of comedy, and then gets to know them a little bit. Like, it's not that insane of an idea. But Joe's like, how can I be reduced to talking to Mike Racine and Jordan Jensen? And some of the other people he had on were like friends of his.
Right.
Chris, honestly, like Chris Scopo, I think is probably as successful as Joe Matarese.
He's on bigger platforms.
Yeah, so it's like, who the fuck are you, Joe, to be talking about people like this? Like, that actually annoyed me as just a fan of comedy and someone that likes some of the people he's had on.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck you, Joe. You're a loser. You're the portrait of a loser. Like,
Right.
if you were to think of a loser comic, one of the first names that comes to mind is Joe Matarese. So for you to talk about people like that you should be embarrassed, as Sebastian would say.
Yeah. This is the guy that like basically Dan Nine and Sebastian.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Hey, can I open for you again, please, Sebastian? Pretty please. I'll say how Italian I am.
That's all I'm going to talk about.
How sad. And this Joe's spineless too. Where when he had Mike Racine on,
Mhm.
Racine was like, "Oh, I hate guys that like pretend they're fucking like being Italian is their identity."
Yeah.
And Matarese goes, "Oh, I know. Isn't that terrible?"
He's like,
Joe, that's what you do.
he's like, you're dissecting me right now. This next clip we have is "Don't Box Me In."
Well, yeah, God forbid Joe do anything. God forbid Joe commit to something. That would be a great tragedy. How dare you try and get Joe to just do something and commit to it?
He wanted to just talk about Rocky every week, and anyone who's ever followed me,
Talking about his
wanna
old
fuck
co-host.
me? You want to fuck me up? Make me stay in a locked space with a show idea. I need like to do. It's one of my strengths and my problems. I
have a question, Joe. How has it? Just one example, if you wouldn't mind. I learned that technique from a great broadcaster. One example, if you would, of how it's been a success. Just like give me one, if you can think of one instance where that has been successful. Now, yes, you're right. There are a litany of weaknesses it proves. There are a litany, I should say, of examples of weakness. But where has it ever been a strength that you can't commit to anything or stick to anything you've done in your career? How has it benefited you? Can you show me that?
I know he would refer to the porcelain shit as showing how successful it is because the views those have.
How is that success for him?
It's not.
It's
But
great. It's great for porcelain. It's good for us. It's good for Carl and Red Bar and anyone that talks about this idiot. It's good for Cardiff Electric.
Yep. But he's probably like, I was a part of something that got millions of views.
Yeah, so was I. I would say that me losing at spike ball to Dave Portnoy was one of my great successes in life.
Well, I'm
You
not
know?
saying it makes sense, but that's
If
what he-
that's what he means, because
yeah,
also at least I worked for Barstool when I did that,
right.
and people could be like, "Oh, I'll go follow Blind Mike or whatever." Joe got destroyed by a great documentarian that was making fun of him and got nothing out of it. And the little that Joe did get out of it, like people following him on Twitter and bothering him,
Mhm.
like Joe hates that. He'll pretend he doesn't. He's like, I don't even acknowledge the troll. It doesn't bother me. That's another thing that he does like Opie and Stuttering John.
Mhm.
It doesn't bother me.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it does, Joe, because you keep mentioning it. But that's the one thing you got out of those porcelain documentaries. So is that the strength you're talking about, you fucking dumb dago? I don't know why Joe, like, this annoyed me because I've always said, like, hey, at least Joe's a nice guy. He's trying, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I was just wrong. Like, I think he's just an asshole.
Oh, for sure. Dude, I've told this before on here, but a friend of mine, like a real good friend of mine, opened for him in Massachusetts somewhere. I forget where. And the tickets did not sell. So he texted my buddy and said, "You need to sell this many or you're not going up."
Not going up.
Yeah,
Why is it that kid's fault?
exactly.
What an embarrassment! Like, what a true embarrassment. He should be embarrassed for like his family. Like, he's bringing his kid around to colleges. Are you at all embarrassed, Joe, that you're like, "Hey, mom's paying for all of this"? Because you can't. What are you doing? You're getting drunk on the internet, hoping people throw change at you. That's not a business model, Joe.
Yeah.
Stick to something, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, you almost did it. You got on the platform to almost do it. You just didn't do it.
You just like you didn't stick to it all. Like, so this is episode 20 or 21, 20, I think. Oh, you
Mhm.
know what? Episode 21 was he said, "Hey, I'll capitalize on Richard Lewis dying." He tweets out like a picture of Richard Lewis and is like, I love it. I swear to God, we'll be talking about hashtag Richard Lewis tonight.
Ugh.
He hashtagged a man's death to try and get views.
Ugh. Gross.
Oh, Joe. Anyways, what was I saying? Should we just get back to the clip? I don't remember what I was
Back to
saying.
the clip.
This guy's an asshole.
He sucks.
I'm not a stay on one exact style every week.
God
That's
forbid.
why there's bourbon here, and it's probably the first time you're seeing it, right?
No, it's not.
No, I've seen actually.
But I
Yes,
thought-
maybe in your hand. I've seen it on about 40 million different podcasts, though, Joe. It's not something interesting about you that you're
It's not
getting
the first
drunk.
time we've seen it in his hand either. He made a whole thing about pouring it.
Well, yeah, that's true. You want to watch me pour this?
Here we have him talking about money.
Okay. I'm sure the dollars will be rolling in now that he's figured out. Oh, that's what I was saying a minute ago. This was the 20th episode. This might have been the 18th or something.
Yeah.
5th different format. You know how much longer it takes for most podcasts to blow up? Now, Joe's never will, of course. Like,
Mhm.
he's not going to suddenly at age 57 discover that he's a great podcaster. But, like, you have to stick with something for more than 2/3 of a year. Is that what that would be?
Right.
Like, Joe, fucking commit to something. It's terrible.
I miss Mike Albanese.
Yeah, we all do. Well, that was the other thing. Is like we got a studio. He abandoned that immediately. Now his poor wife has to hear this horse shit. This
That's
idiot's
the
getting
thing, though, is
drunk.
his home studio. This looks significantly better.
This is another thing he said is he goes, you know, my New Year. Joe might have a problem based on this comment. I never knew him as like an alcohol guy or anything, but he goes, you know, my New Year's resolution was to only drink on the weekends, which that feels like a guy with some issues.
Mhm.
But he's like, my New Year's resolution was to only drink on the weekends. But it's only an hour. It's like, what are you getting defensive for, Joe? No one's accusing you of anything.
As it says, live stream every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. So he's drinking on Wednesdays now also. So only 3 nights a week.
We might have to post about this every Wednesday.
So it goes on Patreon every Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
And then it comes out the following Tuesday, I guess.
What a business
Wait a
model.
minute. Does he? I'm trying to think if he ever says he wants super chats. Does he not know how that works?
I mean, you can super chat through Patreon, but there's like
Sure, I guess we're already fleecing those people.
Yeah,
you've
but there's
already,
like
you've already
technically the
scammed them into subscribing.
people watching us right now could super chat. Don't.
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 You don't need. You've given enough, guys. That's crazy. If he's expecting super chats on the Patreon only version, I just realized that.
Significantly less people watch when we go.
Of course.
Like,
I'm gonna try to keep up with all the questions as they're coming, and feel free to throw a super chat in there if you feel like
I'm gonna keep up. Hold on. I'm gonna roll my shoe down the hallway and see if I can keep up with that.
feel free to throw in a super chat.
There's a tortoise walking by. I'm gonna see if I can keep up with him.
Spooky Sammy. I appreciate you asking. I don't want to get audited, dude. I don't want to get audited. How much did you make? Well, that one wasn't an amazing one because the club was only 110 seats. So you could only make so much when you got 110 seats. But I made I'm not going to tell you.
He was about to say $1,500.
Let's say it's between I made between 1,500 and 2,000 for Saturday night with 100.
I'm not gonna tell you, but I'm gonna tell you essentially the exact number. Which, by the way, that means it's 1,500.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you.
And if
So
he's telling the truth, good for him.
yeah, hey, good for him. I doubt he's telling the truth because why wouldn't you just? If you're gonna narrow it down to a $500 window,
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't you just say it was $1,700?
Right.
So I think he's lying. Like I think he's just lying. But this is where like it's so sad to watch these guys. Guys, we forgot to even promote. Go to blindmike.net if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, please.
Subscribe anywhere you get the podcast, and then become a Patreon or YouTube member if you like the show and want to support it. But you aren't obligated to do that, just so you know. Like, we genuinely, I appreciate everyone that does that.
Mhm.
These old guys that are coming on the internet, Brennan, Matarese, Stuttering John, these people that are getting on the internet and bitching about people not giving them enough money is sad to watch. And Joe's not at that stage yet. He still feels like he has to kiss your ass a little bit
Right.
and be like, hey, really pretty. But guaranteed in a few months, he's going to be like, you know, Spooky Sammy, I saw you giving Kevin Brennan $20 and you only gave me $5. Okay, Joe.
It's a better show, Joe. The horrors of solo shows.
Oh, so this is bad. This is Joe when left to his own devices. You got to at least the fighter and the kid got questions that they could
Yes.
answer. You know,
And I'm going to suggest we do not pause this so you can truly drink in how much this sucks.
I agree. No, I agree. Let's let it play out. This is what happens when Joe is just left to his own devices. Super chats aren't really flowing in. He was able to keep up with the chat, believe it or not. In fact, he stumbled ahead of them just a bit. So he had to kill some time here.
He was the hare and the chat was the tortoise.
Yeah. So we're, naturally, when the subject of Rocky comes up, you got to do this.
Rocky. What brings you out tonight, Rocky? Come on, Rocky. No, this is Juggies, the poster's wrong. What do you mean, Rocky? I mean, the poster is wrong. I'm wearing red trunks with a white stripe, and you got the poster's wrong. Does it really matter, Rocky? I'm sure you'll give him a great show, Rocky. That was for Rocky Juergens, the promoter. Rocky, the biggest asshole in the history of movies. Juergens, what a prick that guy was, right?
You got not seen Percy from the Green Mile? That's the biggest dickhead in the history of movies.
Craig actually had a take on what he was saying.
Yeah, idiot.
I more just couldn't. Like, I didn't ever want to speak again while that was playing.
No, I think
And
we
then-
should end it.
And then for him to say Rocky, Rocky, over and over again. And then have the audacity to say to us, that was from the film Rocky, everybody.
He repeated it so many times because he thought he was nailing it.
We were able to deduce that, Joe. We were able to put it all together, believe it or not.
He thought he was nailing it.
That's like it's when someone does an impression and goes, "I'm Richard Nixon." I'm not a crook. Like you have to say the things to let people know what impression you're doing.
Now, this next part here, Mike, this is where the tables turn and he comes after us.
Okay, yeah, this one I do think, like I said earlier when he was talking about Carl.
Mm-hmm.
This I think might be a little more directed at us.
Yeah, because everyone hates that we start.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, I'm sure the guys that troll me they'll have a good time with this podcast. Enjoy this one. Do your stop starting, dice it up, keep shitting on me. It's fine. I don't care. I don't care. You know what I do now? Let it go. I let it go. I do. Say it one more time. Let it go. I let it go, dude.
Well, seems like a guy who's really letting it go, huh?
He seems to have let it go, Mike.
I gotta be honest. When he said I don't care, I didn't believe him. I'm just gonna put that on the table. I didn't believe him.
Wow.
Then when he said I don't care, I kind of started to believe him. But then I was, as we all were, I'm sure. I was still a little skeptical. But then he sang I don't care. And that's when I was like, this is a guy that doesn't give a fuck. He clearly is not bothered by any of this.
He doesn't give a shit.
Now, if you didn't care, maybe you'd actually acknowledge it and laugh about it and try and understand what people were saying. Because for a while, we were like, hey, Joe's a nice guy. It's just funny to watch him do some of this stuff. And now we hate you. Now I think you're a horse's ass because of the way you're talking about other comics and what you're putting your audience through. It's exhausting. It's mean. Frankly, it's mean to do this to people. The amount of iterations you've had on this stupid fucking show.
Right. This is the last clip we have, and it's him talking about Luis J. Gomez.
Oh yeah, this was maybe subconsciously. It's another reason I'm angry. He went after my guy, Luis J. Gomez. Luis has been pretty positive about Joe. Every time he talks about him, like he makes jokes, but then he's like, yeah, but Matarese is a good guy. He's a good comic, whatever. The audacity to slap back at Luis like this is a big mistake for old Joe, I think.
Definitely. I don't think they'll even respond to this.
Oh, no, he'll never address it. But my thing is more like, Luis would have you on shows and shit, Joe.
He would have him on the shows. He'd have him at Skankfest. He would do all that. Probably.
Yeah, at the Skankfest, he takes it a little more seriously, so maybe we wouldn't want to hack like Matarese there. But like, really, he'd have him on like Real Ass Podcast or something, especially to talk about this.
Right.
Know?
Right. He still might have him on Real Ass Podcast, probably not Legion of Skanks.
Yeah. I mean, Joe doesn't deserve that, obviously, but yeah, Real Ass Podcast maybe. So let's see what he says about the rattlesnake.
Who hates for no reason? People that had fucked up childhoods. That's what I've realized as a grown up. As soon as
hold on. You know what he's doing, Craig? We've seen this.
Gaslighting.
Well, that sure, but what he's doing is what he did to Anthony, Artie, and Jim Norton, where he's like, "You guys you're not married, so you don't understand my problems." He's like attacking Luis because Luis's dad died and his mother was a prostitute.
Right.
And that's the reason Luis thinks Joe's a hack, I guess.
That's why Luis is super successful and living completely off his comedy career, not his soulmate.
Yeah, when Luis does podcasts, he doesn't have to beg people for advice. How should I change this?
Luis Gomez started fucking saying shit about me over and over again on his shows, I started listening and he would talk about his fucking childhood. I'm like, he had a fucked up childhood. Of course he's going to be a dick. You know what I mean? It's just part of it usually. I didn't. My parents are still married. They're still together over 50 years. I slept overnight at their house last night.
Was kicked out of mine.
Some dysfunction enough.
My wife was like, "No gigs again, Joe. Why are you inviting listeners to our home?"
I forgot about that.
That's the most unlikable Matarese is like, "I'm better than you, Matarese."
That's been his whole being this whole time.
Well, no, I think there was some humility during some like the end of the Red Bar stuff, like when he was on Porcelain Show and everything.
Mhm.
I thought he showed signs of humility, but now he's reverted back to like, "Oh, Lewis is criticizing me because I'm better than him." No. Actually, he's a lot better than you, specifically at what you're trying to do.
Right.
Like he seems like a better dad than Joe too. Like there's not an aspect of Joe's life where Lewis is worse than him. It's crazy.
The stand-up comedy, but not enough that I'm just going to throw digs out at people for no fucking reason.
Okay.
That's what you're doing, Joe. That's what you did about the guest you interview.
Right.
Yeah, actually, what I'll tell you what's way worse. Lewis says, "Hey, Joe Matarese is a loser. Ha ha ha. I'm kidding. He's a nice guy. Blah blah blah." What you did, Joe, is take subtle digs at people like Jordan Jensen and Mike Racine, where you're like, they're fucking nobodies who only got successful for TikTok, and I can't muster up a question for them because they bore me. That's what you did. So not only do you take digs at people, yours are more mean-spirited. You're actually a much worse guy, Joe. I don't know why I'm so fired up and turning on him, but
Hacko Burrow in the chat says, Joe doesn't even say the N-word. What a hack.
well, listen. Not saying you should do everything like Lewis.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lewis, by the way, that's the end of Matarese, right?
That's the end of Matarese.
Yeah. So, Joe, well, I look forward to see what your podcast is next week.
Can't
I
wait.
look forward to see if you have costumes or what version of the Joe Matarese show we're in store for next week.
He's like, I could go on to your mom's house studios and have a show called Are You Trash?
Where I just I ask people questions like, did you drink milk with dinner?
Do you like potatoes or a strong linguine?
Poor Joe. Yeah, but no, next week he'll be doing like the Kyle Dunnigan face swaps, but it's just worse impressions of every character that Kyle Dunnigan does. Maybe that's what's next for Joe.
I hope so bad that he
tried that.
He takes one of these episodes and tries to pull clips of it.
Oh, that'd be great. The way John does with Carl. Well, this is what John does with Carl, where he'll play a clip of Carl or Shuley or whoever. He plays the clip and then he pauses it and goes, "Are you fucking with me? I mean, really? Really? That's what they think is funny?" And it proves, like, oh, there's a skill to it, you know?
Yeah.
I guess I'm not saying it's a great skill. It's not like knowing how to build a house or something, but it's a skill, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the end of the Matarese stuff. But